absolutely.
Very cool. All right, here we go.
Hey, you guys, you care if I put it on my Instagram live as we're doing the interview?
Not at all, my friend.
All right.
Just let me know when you're ready.
All right, folks. Let's see. Try to figure out how to do it. All right, folks. Let's see.
I think this is the first for the Dad Edge podcast. We're live going. It's like Dad Edge Inception.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's see. I don't know how to do this. Sorry. All right, here we go. I think I got it. All right, I'm ready now.
All right, cool, man. So Lucas, man, welcome to Dad Edge, my friend. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, it's good to be here, Larry. Appreciate you having me.
By the way, man, I got to say just really quick, I'm jealous of that face sweater, man. You got that full beard, man, on point, bro. I like it.
Hey, appreciate that. That's right. We're trying to bring masculinity back. You know what I'm saying?
That's right, man. That's right. Yeah. So, hey, man, let's get started. I just want to start where you grew up. I know you grew up in Alabama, but what was your upbringing like, even just with your own dad? Obviously, Dad's show.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Larry. Man, I was blessed to have a great father, you know, and I grew up in a Christian home. And so my parents, they would drag me to church every Sunday. But, you know, my dad, we spent a lot of time together outdoors, going on adventures, going hunting and fishing and camping. And we also spent a lot of time on the ball field. You know, my dad spent time with me, you know, throwing the baseball around the house and playing catch. And so great memories with my father in that aspect. But also I got to give props to my dad that, you know, he taught me a lot of how to use, you know, our masculine qualities, masculine traits. He taught me how to do things around the house. I felt like, you know, he was a handyman. You know, he could do carpentry work and, you know, fix things. And so we worked on our barn together, built lean-tos. And, you know, anytime the toilet was broken, he would call me in and help, you know, I would hand him tools. And so just being around while he was doing manly things around the house really, really taught me those skills. And that's something I take pride in. And I feel like, you know, as a father, we need to do a better job of teaching the next generation those kind of things because it seems to be a lost art and going away. So I'm intentional about, you know, we homeschool our kids. So, you know, I try to do projects with my children to really teach those, you know, hands-on projects around the house.
That's really cool, man. I'll tell you what, your experience growing up, I've done almost 1,000 of these episodes now. And your experience growing up, I would say, is a rarity, right? Where you've had like that really fantastic experience with your dad, where your dad, you know, you mentioned in there, your dad brought you in on handyman work. You know, your dad threw the baseball with you. You know, it sounds like your dad just wasn't your father, but man, he was like doing life with you. That's really what I'm hearing. Is that sounds pretty accurate?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, yeah, absolutely, man. We did things together. You know, he was very present in my life. Yes, he worked regularly every day. You know, he had an 8 to 4 job, lots of different jobs while I was growing up. But, you know, he made sure to spend time with us when he was off of work. And especially on the weekends, like I said, we went on adventures together all the time, especially hunting and fishing and camping. But yeah, we did life together, and that was a huge blessing.
That's so cool, man. How did the dynamics maybe in your house growing up change when you started starring in movies? Because I know, man, you were just a little guy when you started doing movies, and I mean, I remember watching you in Sling Blade like years ago, right? And I know that wasn't even your first gig. But how did maybe those dynamics change as you started to evolve into that career?
Yeah, it's a great question, Larry. I feel like, it was definitely a learning experience, probably for my parents and especially myself. But, I think they still wanted me to experience a normal childhood growing up in the entertainment business. And so I feel like my family was very grounded in their faith, and so that was important to us. And also just living a good life out in the country with our community was important as well. So you know, I think I don't know if it was really intentional, but it wasn't like I worked on projects back to back to back to back. And I did turn down a lot of projects when I was younger. I know we were kind of picky of what content we wanted to be a part of, and a lot of that had to do with our Christian values and our core values as a family. So that was a blessing because it wasn't like I worked uh, back, all year. I would do a movie, and usually they take about 3.5 months to film. And so if I did a show for 3.5 months, I was at home for the rest of the 9 months, living a normal life. And that was a huge blessing, and I feel like the community I grew up in, they didn't really put Hollywood up there high on a pedestal. And they kind of noticed I was still just a normal Alabama kid that liked to play sports and just play normal games with my friends. So I wasn't treated any differently, you know. So that was a huge blessing too, but I think it did change in the sense of like just how are we going to manage this time away from home. Usually my mom would travel with me because we weren't a wealthy family. I grew up middle class, and so it wasn't like my dad could just stop work and go too. So they sacrificed a lot of time away from each other throughout my career as well. So just kind of having that balance and that margin in our lives was really a blessing.
Man, that is, I didn't expect that answer. That is super cool though. The fact that I think it's really easy, man. I've had the blessing of interviewing some amazing, movie stars on this show. And the beautiful thing that I've heard, there's a theme that you really hit on there that, when people grow up, as a child star and a child celeb, it's very easy to get kind of sucked into different things that are, quite frankly, aren't going to serve you. And it's a really cool example of how your family, right, and your community was your anchor. I love that, man. And that's so important even today. It doesn't matter if you're starring in movies or not, or if you're in the limelight or not. Having that family to ground you, that anchor and that community is so pivotal. Before we get into obviously your new show coming out, a couple of questions that I have for you is that, so I've watched you in film. I've been a fan of yours for a long time. And the cool thing about watching you on film is you come across, even in film, either characters that you play, like just a really good dude, to be honest, like just a good hearted man. And I'm curious, with all these roles that you've played, as you look back on these roles, is there a role that you've played that is like, man, that was about as close to me as a person, as a man, as a human being, as it possibly could get? Was there a role that really, that you really attached to as your own personality?
Well, that's a great question. I think a lot of the roles I played, I've been able to bring some of my own characteristics, character traits to the role. With television, like with NCIS New Orleans, I was on there 125 episodes. And so that's a long time. So it's kind of a character you really get to build on your own. So I think a lot of Christopher LaSalle I tried to bring some of my own character traits into it throughout the whole run of the show for me. Um, but I think there are a lot of the characteristics, and Pee Wee Reese was it really reminded me of myself and just growing up playing sports, but also just his the way he felt on being on a team and loved everybody on the team, was really special to me. Friday Night Lights, playing a high school football character, so I've been fortunate. I've been fortunate throughout my career that a lot of the characters I played, I've had some similar, characteristics, about them. But I would have to, you know, I guess lean toward Christopher LaSalle just because I've worked on that character and built that character for 125 episodes. So in the end, it was very close to myself.
That's really cool, man. I can see that for sure.
Yeah.
I want to get to obviously you being a family man. And this is the part of the show that I really love. No matter who we talk to, we get this glimpse in this side of you that perhaps the rest of the world doesn't get to see. And I know one of the things that you did, and to quote you, right, that being a father is the greatest privilege and honor of your life. I've heard you say that before. You have 2 boys, you have 1 daughter. You actually left NCIS after 6 seasons to spend more time with family. And dude, that is a move that is just, for me and the audience, is just so highly respected. But tell us about that decision.
Yeah, we don't get that time back. I know we've heard that a lot. But for me, I guess growing up in the entertainment business and since I was a child, I've been able to recognize that how destructive it can be to families. You're on the road, you're traveling a lot, you're the quote in entertainment is like you're married to the job, and I know there's other jobs that feel that way as well. But like television, I mean, I was the first 3 seasons, I'm working 70 hours a week, 514. So there's days where I'm waking up, the kids are still asleep, and then when I come home, they're already back in bed. So I'm not getting to spend that quality time with them that they really need for our relationship to thrive. And so that's a problem, and that's a problem for me, and it's something we all should be concerned about as parents. So my wife and I going into NCIS, we knew that was going to be a concern for us. So we had a plan. I mean, we knew it wasn't going to last forever for us. Our plan was to escape at some point. The show was so good to us that it actually lasted longer for me and my family than we really intentionally set out for. But it was almost 6 full seasons, 125 episodes. That was long enough. I mean, we sacrificed a lot of time away from each other. I sacrificed a lot of time away from my kids. Fortunately, my wife was willing to move out of her home state and come down to New Orleans. And that was the first time she had moved away and be with me for the whole time. So that was a blessing. And that was one reason why we lasted as long as we did, really, on that show. But yeah, it's one of those that you got to think, enough is enough. Financially, we were in a good spot, and it can be tempted to really want more, and that money there's flashing in your face, like, am I really going to turn this down? But at some point, you really have to be intentional about what's important, what your priorities are, and spending time with the family and being there, present in my kid's life, is most important. There's times where I realize that it's not like they need to do anything or have an activity, or I have to have a plan to do something with them. They just want me there. And so it was time for me to step away. And and it's been a huge blessing. I think it was all God's timing, and I'm just blessed that it happened when it did.
You know what's so cool, man, is there's a lot of men who listen to the show, watch the show, and who work, their rear ends off, right? And they pull a lot of hours. And I had an incredible guest that came on years and years ago. And he said this quote, and I'd love to get your reaction to it, which I already got your reaction, but I'd love just for you to just your first knee-jerk reaction to this quote. Don't come home with a wallet full of cash and a house full of strangers.
Yeah, that's good. It reminds me, I do a Bible study with several men on Wednesday mornings, and one of the guys there, he doesn't mind me sharing this story, but he was caught up in the rat race and busy, and he was feeling good about providing for his family, which that's a a responsibility that God has given us to provide. But he was gone all the time, and his son, their relationship wasn't on the best terms, and so he went to talk to him and just asked him, like, are you missing me, son? Like, what is it? And his son looked at him and said, no, I don't miss you anymore. And it really struck, it really hurt him and struck him, like, he had been gone so much that his son doesn't miss him anymore. And so, I've actually witnessed that and have seen that in the entertainment business, and it's sad to see. So we really do have to be intentional, even though God has called us as men, God has called us as fathers to take on the responsibility of providing for our family. But we have to have some margin in our lives, and we have to also take on the responsibility to be there for our kids.
Man, well said. And gentlemen, you guys in the audience, you heard it right from Lucas that, sometimes we can work so hard and we can get in that mode of providing. And man, I've never heard that on the show, Lucas, but like to where they, our kids are like, yeah, I just don't miss you anymore. I'm just used to the fact that you're gone.
Yeah.
Last question I have for you before we move obviously into, your exciting new show coming out, which is Legacy Peak. Marriage, you come across to me, man. I've seen you online. I've seen you on YouTube, and you just seem like a very happy, fulfilled husband. And I would just love for you to give us a glimpse of how have you been able to create this amazing relationship with your wife?
Man, well, I appreciate that. I don't know if I should take all that credit. My wife plays a big part in that. We're partners, and so we do it together. She's an amazing woman and shows me a ton of grace. But yeah, it's one of those things where I've always said, and my wife and I talk about that, you never stay the same. You're either getting worse or you're getting better.
Mm-hmm.
And so in our relationship, we've become intentional about, hey, are we growing? Are we growing together? And it really takes some discipline, and you have to be intentional to fight for your marriage. I mean, you have to have a plan. Like the enemy, he comes to kill, steal, and destroy, and he doesn't want us to be together, because when we are a strong, unified front, we're able to combat his plans and his deceitful schemes. So my wife and I, we really became intentional, and I'd say it probably started, we got married in 2010, but 2015 is really when we started digging deep and like, hey, we got to grow together, being intentional about spending time and talking with each other. And that was kind of hard for us, and I would have to say the busy schedule of NCIS New Orleans really forced us to do it, because we weren't spending time together, and we weren't having those meaningful conversations. We weren't sitting down and just talking and telling each other what was on our minds. And so, communication is a big part, how we communicate. And really, I'd have to give all the credit and all the glory goes to God. I think my relationship with my Heavenly Father is most important. Helps me stay calm and at peace, eternally from Him. That you can communicate better with your wife. It makes you a better individual. I'm able to show grace when I need to show grace, and then also I'm able to go to her and say I'm sorry and I messed up. And that only comes from Him. It doesn't come from my own fleshly desires.
Dude, Lucas, I just want to, man. I love the fact that your foundation is your faith, man. And to be honest, like I knew you're a faith-based person, and I love the fact that you're speaking about it so openly. I've gotten very solid and grounded in my faith over the past, especially 3 years. And dude, it is a game changer, man. Like,
Yeah.
and as far as my relationship, I've got 4 boys. It's like my house is, it's full of energy and it's crazy. My wife and I've been together for 26 years, been married for 19. And dude, our faith, man, like you, we would not be here if it wasn't for that. And I love the fact that you're bold with your faith. You talk about it like that. That's amazing. Yeah. As we wrap up here in the last few minutes, man, you've got a new project coming out, which is super cool. Legacy Peak. I know all about it, but I don't want to spoil it. What can you tell us about it as far as the premise and then the launch and what you're most excited about?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, it's a fatherhood story.
Yeah.
And so it's one that you can sit down with your whole family and watch. And it's going to put fathers in a good light.
It's awesome.
It's going to encourage them and uplift them and empower them. And, that's needed. That's needed in our culture today. I think for far too long, the entertainment industry and things coming out of Hollywood has undermined the fatherhood role. And so this story right here is really going to, change that. I hope it's a trend in the right direction for us. I think there's a big hunger for it, like I was saying. And so, man, I hope that everyone is encouraged with this, and I hope dads go out and watch it and enjoy it because it's a cool adventure, story. My character, he's stepping into the fatherhood role, and it's an unknown territory for him. But what I really love about him is that he doesn't take the passive approach. He has a plan. He wants to connect with these kids. But as we know, as dads, it doesn't matter how many books you read and how much you plan, that can go awry really quick with kids. And so it does on this, but he continues to look to his Heavenly Father first and ask Him for help, which I think is awesome. And then in the end, he really connects with those kids in a special way. And so it's a powerful story, man. It's one that's needed right now, and I think everyone's going to be encouraged by it.
I got to tell you, man, it is needed right now. I don't know about you, but I'm so sick and tired of the entertainment industry portraying fathers as the idiots. It's right. It's like the Al Bundy, right? Or the Peter Griffin, you know what I'm saying, from Family Guy. But yep. I can't stand that, because we do need something that shows the inspiration, the influence of a positive fatherly role model. And man, I am so excited for you, for this show, for this project, and for dads out there who need this W, man. As we wrap up here, one final question I have for you. I always like to ask this question. If we were to fast forward your life 10 years from now, how old are your kids?
11, 9, and 7.
11, 9, and 7. So let's go 10 years. So you got 21, 19, 17. You and your wife have been together for another 10 years. Yeah. You're sitting at the dinner table. You're at the head of the table. Your wife is to your right. You hold her hand. Your oldest is to your left. You hold, his son or daughter is the oldest?
My daughter.
Your daughter. Okay. So okay. So you hold her hand.
Yep.
And then she holds the hand. Then you all hold hands as a family, and you ask your family this one question. Guys, what have been the most meaningful memories and connections that we've made over the past 10 years that have meant the most to you? What are they telling you?
Man, I hope they just, well, I hope they say that how we modeled marriage to them
Yeah.
is most important, you know, because I feel like it's something that we talk about a lot. My wife and I, especially our generation, it seems like it's getting married later and seems like are having kids later in life. And when I say later, I'm talking like mid 30s, even 40. You know, we've had family and friends that, you know, aren't married yet and they're in their late 30s and 40s. And I think that's a big issue in our society. And so we really want to model marriage, that it is top priority and it should be valued number one in our family, because I think a lot of times my generation, my parents, they may have modeled that and lived it by example, but verbally we heard, hey, you got time, you can wait, right? Make sure you got a good career, make sure you got a good education. Somewhere on those lines, that is what was said to us, and there's some wisdom behind that. But verbally, we really didn't hear the things like, hey, find you a good godly woman, right? You guys can do things together. You guys can work as a partnership, provide for your family. All these things that you want to do career-wise or education-wise, you can do it together, right? Those things kind of weren't said to us. And so what happened is we got married late. And I've always said it doesn't really matter if you get married at 17, because my mom got married at 17. And if you don't, and if you get married at like 35, you're still going to have issues that you've got to work out, you know. So we're really big proponents of getting married early, you know. And so I hope when my daughter's 21, I wouldn't mind if she had a godly man next to her at the dinner table, ready for marriage or already married. So that would be the first thing. I would love it if my kids said, man, I love how you guys model a unified front and that you always put God first in everything we do. And every time we sit down at the table, we always pray before we have a meal. And sometimes it leads to reading scripture. And so that would be the two biggest things for me if they would tell me.
Faith and a front row seat to a functional marriage. A lot of people, just as we wrap up here, you know, a lot of people view their marriage as, oh, I'll put it on the back burner. You know, I've got my career, I've got busyness, we got the kids' activities. But what we forget, man, and it sounds like this is front and center for you, is that our kids have a front row seat to our marriage and our relationship. And the best lessons, man, they're caught, not taught. Right. I've been a fan of you for a long time. Now I just love you even more, man. This was awesome. I want to make sure that back at you, man. I want to make sure the audience can find you if they want to follow you on social media, or the best place to obviously find the show. I believe the show is going to be streamed on PureFlix, correct?
That's exactly right. Yep. September 22nd, it's out. And so you should be able to see it now on PureFlix.
Outstanding, my friend. Well, dude, this was awesome. Thank you so much for coming on, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram at Lucas_York_Black, and on Twitter at the Lucas Black, and then also my YouTube channel, Real Life Lucas Black. So appreciate you having me on, Larry. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, my friend. Gentlemen, you won't have to look far for all those links. Just head on over to thedadedge.com/400. Again, thedadedge.com/400. We'll have all the links in the show notes, and definitely go follow Lucas on YouTube. He does give you a glimpse of his real life, fishing, hunting, hanging out with his family. It's good stuff, man. Good, wholesome stuff. Lucas, thank you so much, man. You the man. I appreciate you coming on and dropping some knowledge bombs for us.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, Larry. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Yep.
Gentlemen, God bless you as well.
Yep.
Gentlemen, go out, live legendary. Take care.